So we're moving on to session one, folks. In session one, we're going to have 3 presentations, and then we're going to move on to a joint Q&A for them all. As I said, the microphones are all muted for everyone attending. So we're asking everyone, if you have a question, put it in the chat box. If you have a comment or something that you'd like to raise, put it in the chat box and we'll get to that at around 10:30. So our first presentation today is from Tom Enright, Chief Executive of Wexford County Council. And Tom is going to discuss how Wexford County Council's focus on KPIs has benefited economic and community development. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Nolene. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Good morning, and good morning to the Minister, to the Chair of NOAC, Michael McCarthy, our own Chairman of the CCMA, Tim Lucy, colleagues and friends within the LGMA and local authorities. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to show how we have used performance indicators here in Wexford County Council to drive economic and community development. So I'm just going to give a little bit of research, background information on research that we've done, and that led on to some policy that was adopted by the Council, looking at some of our performance indicators that needed improvement, what results we got from improving those, and what progress we made on our economic and community development programme, and a sum up at the end. So some of the research we started off with really was looking at a whole kind of socio-economic profile of County Wexford from the 2016 census. So we brought in NUI Maynooth with the AERO, the All Ireland Research Observatory Unit there, and they did a detailed analysis down to local DEDs, looking at a variety of parameters, which I'll come on to in a moment. And all of that information was mapped then on heat maps, and we compiled a 400-page report, which is on our website. The second aspect we did some research into was something we knew there was a problem with already, was where we were trying to attract new companies into Wexford or allow existing companies the facility to expand. We knew there was a shortage of commercial property of quality and scale that was preventing that happening, so we wanted to try and address that. And the third report then was the NOAC Performance Indicators Report 2015, looking at some of the indicators there of where we weren't performing as well as we should and what improvements we could make. So that first report then, the socioeconomic report, looked at a whole list of community and economic parameters, and particularly issues like education attainment levels, which we found in Wexford were only 20% of the population had a third level qualification, compared to nationally an average of 30% of the population has. So we knew we were losing our brightest people out of the county. We were also surprised with, I suppose, some of the disadvantaged areas that were highlighted in that report. And it also gives very good information on the economic profile of the county in terms of the type of employment here, the labour market, and commuting profiles as well out of the county for work and so on. So that report then told us what surprised a lot of people is that Wexford was the third most disadvantaged county in the state, looking at social deprivation indexes. And you know, many people looking at a county like Wexford with good agricultural land, with an international port, with being close to Dublin, with a good tourism hospitality sector, would have been surprised at that. And but it just showed us the particular problems and challenges we faced. We'd higher than average levels of unemployment within the county, which was 1 to 2% behind the national average, and we had a high dependency historically on the construction sector. Back in the Celtic Tiger days, that was up to 14% of people employed in construction, and once that collapsed, well then that led to significant levels of unemployment. Some of the research we did on the socioeconomic profile of the county, and this was one of the heat maps we did, and it shows where people working that are employed in technology and professional services, it's where they live on the left hand side. So the higher the darker the colour, the higher the density of those people living there, and on the right showed where they work. And what that told us was that a lot of people are leaving the county every day, because if everybody worked locally, both maps would be the same. So we were seeing a huge number of people leaving the county every day to work, largely to the Greater Dublin area, but also to Waterford. And that was something we want to try and address. On our research on commercial property, again, it told us what we knew, that there was little or no quality commercial space, office space or manufacturing space available in the county, and that lease rates were relatively low and would deter private speculative investment in building new facilities. On the NOAC performance indicators in 2015, which looked at a number of economic and social criteria, we took the report. We looked at comparable counties in terms of size, population, and so on, and we identified key performance indicators which we wanted to improve. And one of these was our collection of income streams, because that was one that was causing us a particular problem with our plans for investment. To move on then to policy, and in our corporate plans, we knew we wanted to address this issue with the lack of commercial office space and property solutions in the county. So we put that as one of our objectives, both in our mission statement in our corporate plan in 2015, but also then in our new corporate plan from last year. And we also wanted to deliver new community facilities as well, with a number of particular projects around recreation and greenways. So as part of the review process, we looked at the 3 different teams under the new corporate plan, were economic and community development, business operations of the council, and promoting local democracy. So we made a few changes then in terms of the internal structures of the council to help this. We set up a new dedicated customer service centre so that all calls and correspondence coming in was dealt with centrally, not going to each individual section, which at different times for responding. So we tracked all of those with an IT system, so to make sure that all queries, complaints, concerns that were raised by customers were dealt with efficiently and appropriately. I set up a special projects team to deliver the infrastructure projects, so we had a dedicated team of people there that could drive those on. And we brought procurement together into one unit, which had been spread across the organisation, and we brought property together in one unit, again, which had been spread across the organisation. So we developed a very ambitious economic and community development programme, which was over 30 projects costing around €50 million over 5 years. And our economic investments, we looked at the 4 key towns in the county and how we were going to provide commercial property solutions for businesses there. In Gorey, we were going to build a new office building in partnership with the private sector. In Escorty, a new technology park with office buildings. In New Ross, a new manufacturing building, because we knew we had companies coming to us looking for manufacturing facilities, but we weren't able to satisfy their needs. And our flagship project then is Wexford Town, which is Trinity Wharf, which is a fantastic site, which we purchased from NAMA on the waterfront. And there's a number of other investments as well on the economic side we were advancing. On community investments, we looked at a new town park in Wexford, which didn't have a proper town park as the county town with a growing population of over 20,000. And we had a park in Gorey which wasn't fit for purpose, we needed to reinvest in. We had a series of greenways across the county. We looked at an activity centre on Fort Mountain, a site we owned outside Wexford Town. We wanted to improve the Wexford Arts Centre, and we wanted to develop a learning centre for a partnership arrangement we had with Georgia Southern University in the United States. So how are we going to fund all of this? Well, government grants were going to be important to us, particularly the Urban and Rural Development Fund, but also our own resources. So we needed to increase commercial rates. So we showed our plans to the 4 chambers in the county, and we wanted to increase rates by 3%, which would give us over €1 million a year, which would allow us borrow approximately 20 million over 20 years to fund our programme. And once we showed our plans to the chambers and looking for a 3% increase in rate, we were surprised that they actually came out in favour of the increase in rates. That made it very easy then for the councillors to almost unanimously pass the rates increase. We also increased our local property tax by 5% the first year and then 10% each year thereafter. We were the first local authority to increase our local property tax twice, and that's been held again, and we had very strong support for that. But one of the areas that we wanted, which was poor in our performance indicators, was revenue collection, and we needed to increase that if we were to bring in extra income that we needed to help finance our projects. So on the key performance indicators, the ones that we agreed with the councillors in 2017 and 18 to focus on were the use of the online motor tax system to improve that, the number of organisations on the public participation network, our provision of social housing to improve our performance there, improve the number of schools participating in Corlin and Og, and transparency of the availability of information, improve that on our website, development of an online member support system to track and log any representations from them, and also, as I said, revenue collection performance. So how do we do on those performance indicators? So over a few years, we increased those significantly. So currently we have 83% of customers using motor tax system. That has increased from the low 70s. We have a significant increase in number of organisations on the PPN. We exceeded our provision of social housing targets in 2016, 17 and 18. And we have all secondary schools participating now in Corlin and Og. And we put a lot more information on our website for the public to be able to access. And we introduced a new system for the GDPR compliance system for tracking and responding to members' queries. So on our results on the revenue collection, this is one where we put a particular focus on to improve. You can see there the increases we've got in our commercial rates, and our housing loans in particular over a few years was substantial. And that helped us to address our revenue deficit, to get that down from over 7 million to 2 million euros. And it helped us to bring in better cash flow and more funding for our various initiatives on our economic and community programme. So progress, how have we done on our programme? Just run through a few of the projects we've done. The first kind of office building we built was in Gorey, and that was completed 2 years ago, and that's been very successful. What we do with our office buildings is we don't want to be building offices ourselves, because if we do, it's very expensive for us as a public authority to do so. What we do is buy land, lay out, get planning, lay out the site, put in the infrastructure, and bring in private investments to build the office space. They can do it at possibly about 60% of the cost we can, which makes it much more economic then for leasing. We then will bring in clients and tenants, so that we in this case we would have had 30 to 40% of that building full before it was completed, and then we give a guaranteed lease below market level on the empty space. And as the empty space fills, we reverse out with our commitment in terms of leasing over a number of years. And the model we have is that once a building is around 60 or 65% full, the commercial rates we get in on the full part of the building effectively compensate us for the lease guarantee we give on the empty part of the building. So once the building is 60-65% full, we're effectively financially out of it, but we've achieved our target by being able to get a few hundred jobs into the county in a quality environment. So this building was a 36,000 square foot size building, and we already have one large IDA company come in there with 100 jobs. And over the last 18 months, we have had 3 large IDA companies come to Wexford, and we know there's 1 or 2 more in the pipeline. Prior to that, you had to go back over 10 years since we got a company of a similar scale coming to Wexford. So the investment in our property solutions is paying dividends. And we also set up what's known as the Hatch Lab as an innovation centre for small companies. We have 28 startup companies there. Again, we would not have got those companies here in Wexford. We would have lost them to Dublin and elsewhere if we didn't have that facility. And that provides a soft landing for companies, incubation space for small startups, and also hot desking for people who want to work remotely. Now, Enright Technology Park is the second project. We've completed all of our infrastructure. That's €2.5 million of a spend. We put in all of the site works, and we have a private investor investing €8 million now, building the first office building, which is a 50,000 square foot office building. There's planning for a second office building of the same size, and that project will be finished by the end of next year. And we already have that building, the first building, around 40% committed, with one new FDI company announced last year, a financial services company, taking the top floor of that building with 100 jobs. We also work with the United Nations on a new international near zero energy building centre of excellence for the construction of low energy buildings. New Ross, we've agreed with again a private investor to build an advanced factory there. 2 advanced factories, one of 50 and one of 25,000 square foot. That's in the planning stage at the moment. Will be under construction early next year, and we have financial agreements done on that project. And again, that'll provide a facility which, again, few locations will have in terms of bringing new manufacturing companies here to Wexford. Kilmore Marine Business Park is a smaller project, but one that's important. We see in Kilmore Quay, which is a fishing port in the south of the county, where a lot of fish is caught there and is brought to Donegal for processing and then exported through Dublin and Rosslare very inefficiently. And we also see fish being taken to Monaghan for cold storage in the former mushroom cold storage facilities. And again, because we don't have these facilities in the Kilmore Quay, we're losing out for employment, and it's adding cost to local businesses. So we're building a marine business park, and we will be putting in fish processing and cold storage facilities, both on an individual and cooperative basis. We're intend doing a research project with WIT as well to add value to the fish catch there. Our flagship project, as I said, is a major project in Wexford Town called Trinity Wharf, and we bought this site from NAM. It's a wonderful site right on the harbour in the centre of town, and we're looking at €120 million investment here. for hotel, marina, apartments, and large-scale commercial office space of around 200,000 square foot. We have the first initial funding of URDF to get the site purchased and the services started, and we're out to tender on those services at the moment, and we have another application in for URDF funding to complete that work. We got planning approval for this project, which took us over a year with Bord Pleanála in April 2020, and as I said, we'll be starting construction on that in early 2021. On our community and recreation projects as well, we've quite a bit of progress on there. We've a new Fort Mountain Activity Centre. It's a disused quarry in a wonderful location, and we're developing trails, canoe lines, zip lines, wall climbing, mountain biking there. And phase 1 of that has just been completed, will be opened next week, and we're in partnership with the Water Wexford ETB, who will operate the facility for us once completed. Minrine Park is a brand new public park for Wexford Town that was opened in June, and given the pandemic and the need for people to get out and enjoy recreation, that has been a huge success. We also received a donation from Richard Mulcahy, who did The Secret Millionaire in Limerick back in 2012, who gave us €200,000 of a donation to that for the park, which has been named after his grandmother, Min Ryan, who was a famous lady who was involved in 1916 and the history of the founding of our country. Another project we're doing as well is Gorey Town Park, and that'll be finished in December. And again, we'll give a much more enhanced facility in Gorey for people to use. We're also developing a number of greenway projects. One is under construction, which is from New Ross to Waterford. It's a €15 million project, 24 kilometres along the old railway line. And we're also working with a company who will operate a river ferry service, so you can cycle the 24 kilometres, put your bike on the ferry in Waterford or New Ross and come back on the River Barrow with a wonderful journey that takes about an hour and a quarter, and get a cup of coffee and something to eat on the boat as well. And that, again, that service will be up and running next year. We've also developed a new learning centre for Georgia Southern University, and that is completed. That was fully booked out for the past summer with students from Georgia. Unfortunately, all of that collapsed with the COVID crisis, but that should be back on track, we hope, for next year. And the courses are now being advertised by GSU for next June for that facility. And again, that's been a huge addition and an important addition to the town here. And we're also have tenders received in, and we're about to award a contract for the Wexford Arts Centre's extension, which again will give a much better facility for the arts in County Wexford. So there are a list of some of the projects. We have other projects on site at the moment, others going through planning. That's just a snapshot of some of them. And the increase in our revenue, which we set about targeting through the improvements in performance indicators, has helped us to finance these projects. So what we've been doing then as well each year, we didn't do it this year because of COVID, is we've been producing a 16-page booklet of where these projects are at, the ones that are planned, the ones that are at construction, the ones that have been completed, and we've circulated that to over 50,000 homes in the county. It's very cost effective to do that. It's around €22,000 to get that publication produced, printed and delivered, and it gives people something when they come home, and children in the household, to read and see the projects and see the work that's been done, and to show to people where their local property tax is going and the increases in their local property tax are going to provide local facilities. And that's been very much welcomed both by the public and by the councillors, because it shows the work the council is doing. And again, we will have an updated brochure in the new year. So finally, John, just to summarise, performance indicators provide focus to organisations for improvement, and it's great to see the staff being motivated to achieve results, because where they see one of the services is falling below the national trends and needs to be improved, we can motivate staff to do so. But what I think the point I'd like to make today is that what performance indicators are is they're enablers to achieve the corporate goals we set out. So while people may be working in one part of the council that is improving performance indicators, well, then that can have a very positive effect on other parts of the council that are trying to deliver certain services and projects and so on. So that the improvements that we have seen, the significant improvements we have seen in revenue collection, has helped us to deliver some of the projects that I've shown earlier. And I think we need to show that, and we need to link the performance indicators to tangible results, so that people are not just seeing a report being produced each year which shows variances in performance and how that might be improved, but to show what the actual effect of those improvements are, because some of the improvements that we're making in the performance indicators can make a real difference to getting better services delivered in each local authority. So that's me finished, and thank you very much for your time and attention. Thank you.